Well, this is the opening screen that you see when you start gCADPlus, and for this lesson we're going to go File and open the drawing that you've just downloaded from the net, Lesson01 Aspen Stone. So we'll open it up. Now I've put the background here at white. You can change the background from white via the view drop down, so you can do that, and you'll see the footprint of the house through there. What we're going to do is draw over the top of the existing footprint to give you some practice in how that's done in real jobs. So let's just go back to background color white, and I'm going to start the line tool, and for that I can click on the draw drop down menu and pick the line tool. The prompt, which you'll see at the crosshair cursor, or in my case right now at a mouse pointer, we're asking for the first point of the line. Now what I want you to do this time, you don't have to do this, but it gives me a chance to illustrate that you can indicate points in a design by typing pairs of coordinates, an X value and a Y value. So it's 0, 0, and then hit the enter key. And I've typed those numbers from the top row of the keyboard, not from the numpad. And you can see I'm anchored at the bottom left, so I'm going to trace right over the top of the existing line. Down here in the status line, notice that polar tracking is on, and over here in what's called the properties box, notice that my drawing color is red. So as I swing around, because polar's on, you might just be able to see a dotted line running out here. Now that line, that first line, is 20 feet. We measured the wall to be 20 feet, so I just type 20 and hit the enter key, and bingo, the line goes in over the top. I'm going to hit the right mouse button to exit and pick exit. I could also have hit the return key. I just want to click on that red line and show you that in the properties box it tells us everything about the line. We started it at an X coordinate of 0 and a Y coordinate of 0. Its length is 20, so it's 20 units, or in our world, because we're working in feet as our base unit, that is 20 feet long. Well, let's now continue with the line command. So instead of dragging it from the draw toolbar, I'm going to pick it from the floating toolbar. I'm floating it off, and here's the line tool here. So line, and for the first point, what I'm going to do is drag yet another toolbar across and float it. This is called the O-snap toolbar, and I'm going to choose the first option there, which is the O-snap end. So it's going to jump. You might just be able to see, if we zoom in, see how the new line is starting at the end of the old one, and all I need to do is move, as we've done before, in the direction I want to go in, and hit 10, come across here, making sure that my line is going to be horizontal, and this length is 23 feet, come down here 10 feet, across in this direction 26 feet, and I'll use the wheel of the mouse to roll out a little so I can see what's happening, and then I can come some arbitrary distance down, hit the right mouse button and click on exit. So we've drawn the footprint of the house using the tools that we have at our disposal in gCADPlus. Well, at this point I'm going to take off the polar switch down in the status line. I'm just going to click on the word polar, and that turns it off, and I'm going to start the line command again. I'll use the keyboard shortcut this time, L for line and enter. For the first point I'll just click anywhere in the screen, and can you see that I can now move anywhere I like and no dotted line appears. It's only when the polar switch is on that as I approach the horizontal I get a series of dotted lines radiating out. So although you can draw at an angle with polar on, and I'll have more to say about that later, I just want to show you that you can draw a series of lines at any angle you like, and then right click and pick exit to finish. To remove these lines, because we don't want these, we can pick individual lines. You'll notice that in the properties box up here a plus sign. So if I click on that, Now I hit escape. If I pick on that line, it gets highlighted. Pick on another line, and the first line loses its highlight. That's controlled by this 1 and plus switch. So I'm back in the normal situation now, where I can pick any one of these lines and right click and select erase, and they're gone. There's an undo switch, as you would expect, and there they are. The lines are back again. I can also pick lines by setting up what's called a window around, in this case, a couple of lines, so they get picked, or I could use a crossing box. So can you see the box here crosses and encloses all of the lines, so we can remove them in that way. So it's just important, I think, at this stage, don't be frightened if you make a mistake. Just use that technique and rub out any entity that you put in the wrong place or the wrong size or wrong colour or whatever. Well, let's imagine that we wanted to put a feature tree. We're looking from the house out towards the back boundary. Let's imagine the room that's jutting out here is a family room, and we want some big windows in that wall, and we want to look out on a feature tree, and we'd like that feature tree placed centrally in our view. We imagine that our design is going to be somewhat formal, so we might want to put a tree such as the one you see here on the right hand side some distance out from the house. So I'm going to pan the drawing down now, and that's done by holding the wheel of the mouse down and dragging down. Of course, you have tools for doing that. There's the pan icon up there. There are lots of ways of panning, but you'll find as you work with gCADPlus that using the wheel and the right mouse button to pop up menus becomes a much quicker way of working. So I'll just put the Object Snap toolbar here. I'll park the Draw 2D toolbar back there. That gives us a little more space. What we're going to do now is put what's called a construction line up to get this view line, and for that I go Draw, and the third one down is the construction line. But I'd like the line to start at the midpoint of this 23-foot line representing the window wall in this room. And the second option on the OSnap menu is the mid option. So when I click it once, it'll one time only find the midpoint there, and now I'm swinging to show the software where I want this construction line to be. And you can see I can't lock it into the vertical until I pop down and put polar on, and now I can lock that construction line into vertical, and I'll right click and exit. As I zoom out, can you see the line, the construction line just runs to an infinite distance. We're going to have a back boundary fence running and some side walls shortly, and we'll be able to move this this tree and place it in its correct position, which we'll calculate by some triangulation. Now the Save Drawing little box has come up, and it's a good habit to get into to save that drawing. You can change its interval. At the moment, if you look down in what's called the command area, the backup time is set at 10 minutes. Let's double it to 20 minutes. That means every 20 minutes that little warning will come up and encourage you to save the drawing. Don't forget that green plus sign though. When you're working on an elaborate design, that's a very good protection. So our next step is to accurately locate the position for this tree, and then we'll drag it into position. So construction lines can be really very, very handy. A construction line such as that one runs infinitely up, and in this case infinitely down. You also have the option of choosing what's called a ray. An array, let's pick it now, and we'll start it from the mid of, say, this line. Can you see a ray, just as the name implies, radiates out from one point rather than two? So it would have been better for us to have used array. But the thing about construction lines is you use them temporarily and then erase them when you no longer need them. Well, next I'm going to show you how to locate that symbol on this construction line. So let's pick the symbol, and we'll right click and we'll pick move, and we're asked for a base point, so we're going to click in the middle of the symbol, and then can you see that as I move the mouse, the pointer, the symbol moves with me. I'm going to use another one of these O-snaps or entity snaps, and the one I'm going to use this time is one that's strangely called nearest. So I pick it, and now you may just be able to see that as I move close to the line, the central point just locks onto the construction line. So if I click it and then right click and pick unselect all, that symbol is now centrally located on the view, moving from our width set of windows. Now, because we are using gCADPlus, and gCADPlus allows you to have layouts, this template has got one already, an architectural C size landscape sheet, and I just click to it. So everything that we've been doing in that environment now shows on this layout sheet, and in fact it's ready to print. Not that you would print it at this stage. The point that I'm making is that whatever we add, whatever symbols we add and other constructional details in this environment, which is called the model space environment, is automatically reflected in the layout. And in this case, our layout is for a C size sheet. That does not mean that you have to have a C size printer. You can print to a PDF file and then print on any size sheet you like, including on a small sheet if that's what you've got in your office. You can also take the PDF file to a copy centre and produce a large format print of your design. Well, if I move back again to that layout sheet, notice that we've got a lot of information on the right hand side. Some of these symbols, they're not part of the design as yet, and I'd like to display the house footprint in our new design at the maximum magnification that I can on this sheet. To do that, to change my view, I just double click anywhere in the sheet and up pops this magenta box. Whatever's inside the magenta box gets displayed in the layout. What I want to do here is just reduce the size of the box and reposition it like so. I can move it up a little, and then I can right click and display on the layout. Then I double click again, and now I've got a better view. Notice how the symbols that we've got are getting tangled up with our title block information. So I can come back into the model and grab hold of these symbols and just right click, select them all, and then move them. So I move them out of the way. They're still available to us, but now when we go on to the architectural sheet, everything's looking really good. Well, I've had a request to go more slowly over placing those lines, placing the footprint of the house down again. So remember, we went draw, line, and the prompt down in the command area and also at the where the mouse pointer is, it's saying first point, and I typed 0, 0. That's 0 on the numeric keys across the top of the keyboard. It's not capital letter O. Then I hit the enter key. Now when I move, you can see I'm anchored at that 0, 0 point. I'm going to see now if I can change my drawing colour to magenta, and we'll see if I can now type the distance. Notice the line says 20.41 whatever, and a less than sign and 0. That's angle 0. So 20, and hit enter. In goes the magenta line. Just magnify it a little. Now we head up in the vertical direction, and because we've got polar on, that dotted line extends out there. You could also put ortho on, and that forces everything to be vertically upright, but we find polar works quite well. So I type 10 and hit enter again. I could type 10.5 for 10 feet 6 inches, but 10 for the moment. Then I pick up the mouse, so the line command is continuing on, and I type 23 for 23 feet, hit enter. That burns it in. I'm going to come down in this direction, angle 270 as you see, type 10, hit enter, and I come over here 26 and hit enter. Now for the line down the side of the house, I arbitrarily just clicked, but let's put 5.5 feet, so 5 feet 6 inches, say we measured it to a window. And if I now click on that last line, you can see it measures 5.5 feet, or 5 feet 6 inches. So we're using decimal feet as our unit of measure. All these values have come from a mud map that I made when I went on site and measured from one corner of the house to the first corner 20 feet, then 10 feet, then 23 feet across, and so on. Dimensions are taken from the model. So there's a dimension toolbar here. Let me float it over here. If I wanted to measure and put an indicator on there of how long that is, I could pick this linear dimension. I can make the cursor jump or snap to the end point and snap to the end point again, and it should say 5.5, and it does. And the dimension is drawn in whatever colour is set as the current colour. So I hope that shows you how to put the footprint of the house down. It takes a lot longer to describe than it does to do.